begin with a question for H.D. Jones. Mr. Jones, since you have been on the City Council, what do you think you have accomplished as a councilman, and why do you think voters should re-elect you? You have 2 minutes.
Yep.
I think the main thing we have is parks. We've improved all the parks, our sewage system, our waste system, we have our fire station, fire trucks, and all this stuff we had to do is wore out, and we had to go ahead and put it in. It's a lot of money, but it'll be here for years and years and years. It makes it look like we're spending a lot of money, which we have, but it's something we had to have. And I voted against some of the stuff that we got now, but really we need it.
And Mr. McLaughlin, would you like to challenge that response? You do have 1 minute.
Okay, this question will be for Mr. McLaughlin. You have publicly stated that you are in favor of term limits for city officials. According to the National League of Cities, only about 15% of cities have term limits for mayor and city council positions. The thinking behind that is to let the voters decide when they want new leadership, not some rule or law. How do you think term limits will benefit the city? You have 2 minutes.
So yeah, what I think is that what we need in our city is a fresh revolving door of ideas that come in and out, and not allowing just our candidates, our elected officials, to stay in office for however long they want to stay in office for. So, does that answer your question?
Mr. Jones, do you want to make a rebuttal to that?
Well, what if somebody runs against your candidate you got now, and what if you think you're a better candidate than what's running against you? I would run against.
Wait, don't spin. There's a mic problem.
So they can't hear over there, so what we'll do, why don't we, y'all stand up.
Because I think you can hear better. All right?
So I'm going to lay it there and I'll let y'all hold it. How's that?
Okay, Mr. Jones, since 2010, there have been 19 non-unanimous votes on City Council on various items. You were the dissenting vote on 8 of those, and you were the lone dissenting vote on 2 of those items. Generally speaking, what types of items have you usually been against that the majority of the council has approved? You have 2 minutes.
I guess on the ladder truck, I voted against it. We had one and it had lots of miles and it had some issues, but I'm glad now that we got it. So, then on the emergency truck, I voted against it. We had one that had some miles on it, and I thought we could get some more miles out of it before we wanted to. And the light fire truck, the pumper truck, I voted for it because it mainly is for thrill and color and your plant, and it has the foam instead of just water. And it has enough pressure to blow the foam. I can't remember. It's been too long since I'm on maybe I voted again.
It's okay. So just to clarify, all right. Just to clarify, you generally tend to vote against items where the City Council is looking to purchase new equipment, but you feel the existing equipment could last just a little bit longer. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. McLaughlin, do you want to respond?
Okay, Mr. McLaughlin, you have promised that if you are elected, you would work to bring back the Brownwood reunion or a similar event. Since reunion was mostly a voluntary event, what does being a city councilman have to do with bringing back or operating the event? Are you suggesting using city funds for the event? And you have 2 minutes.
Well, first off, I'm not suggesting that we use city funds for an event like the Brownwood Union. What I'm saying is that we'll either bring it back or we will create a project similar to it. See, the thing is that when I hire people inside my company, I give them a job description. And sometimes that inside that job description, I ask them to do things that are outside that description. And as coming into this race, my mindset is no different. I believe as a councilman, you should go above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that the city's taken care of. And I believe when I go out and I talk to people in the city and I go door to door and have these conversations, people are very frustrated that this event went away. And I believe that it's time for a new generation of people to step up and start solving the problems inside this type of event and bring it back for our community.
And Mr. Jones, if you wish to rebut, you have 1 minute.
On the reunion, we was losing 15, we started about 15,000 every time, and then we went up to about 25,000, and we couldn't afford it, and everybody tried it, you know, we couldn't make it work. And that wasn't even counting all of our labor from the city and electricity, and it's probably another 15 or 20,000 that wasn't even showed on that. I would guess, this would guess that was probably around, within 40,000 or so. And that, I wouldn't, that, you know, you're losing money, you don't need to be doing it.
Well, you sat back down. Mr. Jones, this question is for you. I hate to make you do the calisthenics of the up and down.
I'll sit down all the time.
It's okay. So, Mr. Jones, what do you hope to accomplish in the next 4 years, if re-elected, that you've not been able to accomplish so far in office? Any specific goals? You have 3 minutes.
The main thing would be spend less money, and we're paying on a lot of stuff right now that we'll have paid off. I think like the ladder truck in 21, and the next truck, I think it's in 23 or 4. We're paying down a lot of stuff. We won't spend near as much money.
Mr. McLaughlin, do you wish to respond?
Mr. McLaughlin, this is a multi-part question. One of your campaign promises is to work with the council and mayor to stop wasteful spending and lower property taxes. What is your plan to accomplish this, and can you highlight the line items in the budget you intend to cut, and how would this affect the tax rate? What is your timeline for lowering taxes?
Well, it's not
4 minutes.
Yeah, so it's not specifically things that I would cut out of the budget. What I would have done differently with things like splash pads is I would have worked with nonprofit organizations to do the fundraising to make sure that those types of events happen. I'm not speaking out against splash pads. I have an 11-year-old brother. I take him out there all the time to play in those splash pads. And I think that they're a great thing for the community. When I go out and I survey people, especially with the JCs, and ask them what they want, they always tell me, they say that we want more family-friendly events, and I believe that thing hit the mark. I just have a disagreement on how it was paid for. Over $600,000 was spent on that project, and I believe that what we could have done is partnered with nonprofit organizations and grants to be able to bring that stuff in. Thank you.
Actually, Mr. McLaughlin, it was $450,000.
Not with the sheets that you guys sent to me, 660-something thousand.
That's not correct, sir.
Okay, well, the sheets that I received from your office say that it was over $600,000.
Mr. Jones, if you wish to rebut, you have 2 minutes.
All right, from the time I was elected in city council, many of the people asked me about the skate park. I was the first one to ever build a skate park. And my boy was 45 and he was probably 12 then. It wasn't a party at my house, but it was a party at my house. And we got an unexpected refund from the Brown County Water Improvement District that was divided between Mays Park, Cecil Holman Park, and it took for 4 years to finish the start of the project done. And we went out and got donations from local business, banks, citizens. The skate park was built on additional cost for the city. It reflects a plan that got more donations in the future for walking trails and pavilions and parents that have shades. On my park, I was the one who started it. And I went to McCoy's Lumber, got free steel. I went to Ingram Concrete, got the concrete at cost. And I got donations from Bruno Chevrolet, Stanley Dodge, and we cut back a lot of expenses just on the slab of it. And we're still going to build a pavilion and a walking trail and a bunch more stuff, volleyball court, and I will get money. I'll get my sponsors. I'll go back and get them again. And so, I mean, it didn't cost us. What we got over there, we turned out pretty reasonable.
Mr. McLaughlin, I need to give that back to you. The amount that I quoted was the bid from Vortex for the actual construction of the splash pads. There were other expenses for the peripheral items like sidewalks and so forth. So the total cost of the projects came in at $588,000.
Okay, Mr. McLaughlin, you have referenced a recent study that shows that within 10 years, Brownwood will start to see a massive decline in population because the baby boomers are dying off and young people are not staying. What do you think why do you think the young people are not staying, and what would you do to attract them? And you have 2 minutes.
Well, I think that we need to build a city that attracts young people to it. And I think, taking away events like Brown Union and different things like that in the community, different projects that we have taken away, takes away from that quality of life in the city of Brownwood. What I would do is focus in on really why is it that our young generation is not staying in the city of Brownwood. The study that I quoted was from the Economic Summit. I forget what the doctor's name is, but and I believe that we need to start bringing in types of businesses that create the opportunities that our young citizens want to see in the city of Brownwood.
And Mr. Jones, you have a minute to rebut if you wish.
A lot of you kids, move off to go to college and then they get in another field. But with our factories we got here with Kohler and 3M and Spirit Cable, we've got plenty of jobs. A lot of you younger generations don't want to work. And that's sad, but it's true. I shouldn't even said that again. I hope to employ 12 or 17 people all the time. And we go through helpers, young people that work a week or 2 weeks, or by the time you get them kind of lined up, they're gone. We see firsthand on a lot of younger generations. But we got a lot of good ones too. I've been training some good kids, and they make good money. If you have to have a skill anymore, a lot of times your education doesn't get much for it. I got a son-in-law graduated from A&M, and my daughter got him a job. So
Mr.
she's
Jones.
a doctor in physical therapy. Now he's going
Mr. Jones, your time is up for that question. However, sir, no, you're fine. However, sir, we did get out of order, and so I do have 2 questions for you. We're going to go back to back. I know we've been alternating, but we got a little bit out of order, so I'm going to hit you with 2 questions. Is that okay? So your first question is, you recently posted on Facebook that you originally ran for a city council position because of some issues you had heard about regarding city codes and to help ease that burden. What have you done as a city councilman to address this issue? And you have 2 minutes for that.
I believe our code inspectors are a lot better now than they were 11 years ago. They was too strict. I built a $500,000 project down there, and they come in and told me I had counterfeit 2x4s, and I got them McCoy and had a receipt for them. They were stamped with black letters instead of red. It's supposed to be red, I don't know, but and that's what really got me fired up. And I probably, my building is 5,000 square feet. It had very few 2x4s in it, and just the restrooms and offices, and the Mickey Mouse deal, I thought. So we got fired up. It changed up for us. We're working with people.
So, Mr. Jones, just really quick, just to clarify, when you say it's changing up, we're working with people, what specifically have you worked on to ease some of those city codes so our businesses can work a little easier?
I guess Ed McMillan, he's pretty well on them too, but we just watch, and if somebody complains to us, we go after them, and we do house calls.
Okay, and Mr. McLaughlin, do you wish to respond? No? Okay, so the next question is again for Mr. Jones. You were one of the driving forces on establishing the city skate park that we had talked about earlier a few years ago. How did that come about? And do you think the project was a good use of city funds? You have 2 minutes.
Repeat that, please.
Do you feel the skate park was a good use of city funds? And you have 2 minutes.
I think it'll come to kids, to me, you know, they're your future, and you gotta take care of them, have a place. I'd rather see them outside playing and in the skate park or the splash pads or anything than being inside playing with a cell phone, texting somebody or playing, you know, sitting on the computer. About half of them, about half what they know. They're outside and the parents are outside with them, so it's more family that was it.
Mr. McLaughlin, do you wish to respond?
Yes.
You have 1 minute.
So I think the skate parks are a great thing for the community. I was just a little frustrated to see how they were funded. I believe that having more involvement with nonprofit, and I know I keep beating this issue over the horse, or over the head, but I just believe that more involvement with nonprofit organizations to have those types of things funded is the best route to go instead of coming out of the city budget. I also believe that when you do things like that and then you turn around and raise property taxes, it creates a bigger issue than just going out and saying, let's, you know, do all these projects and then turn around and raise property taxes on everybody else.
Mr. McLaughlin, another multi-part question. And gentlemen, I do want to just remind you, if you could, to just make sure you hold the mic up close so that everybody can hear you. Okay, Mr. McLaughlin, multi-part question. One of your campaign promises is to recruit businesses with high-paying job opportunities. Currently, the unemployment rate in Brownwood is about 3.6%. So where would these workers come from to fill these jobs? And do you think this would hurt our existing businesses in retaining employees? And lastly, can you give the audience a brief outline of your plan of action for this? And you have 2 minutes.
So that is true. I mean, you know, you got the unemployment rate at 3.8% like you're saying. But the thing is that most people commute to Brownwood from different counties inside of Brown County. Not just, you know, they don't just come from the city of Brownwood, Texas. I think that what I would do is work alongside with Guy Andrews on coming up with creative ideas and how we can bring those types of businesses into Brownwood. And anything that Guy Andrews would need on streamlining that process, that I believe that we should do it to make those decisions faster within the city.
And Mr. Jones, you have 1 minute if you wish to rebut.
So these last two questions, they're both the same question, so we don't need a rebuttal time. Mr. Jones, what is your philosophy for supporting the Brownwood Police Department to help fight crime? You have 2 minutes.
I think we got one of the best chiefs right now we ever have, and I believe we work, all the council work real good with the police department, and I don't, and he's type, if anything need to be changed, he'll change it. But I think we're all in good shape with the police department.
Okay, Mr. McLaughlin, the exact same question. What is your philosophy for supporting the Brownwood Police Department to help fight crime? You have 2 minutes.
So I'm in full favor of the police department. My brother-in-law is actually a state trooper for Junction. And I remember I would go on several different ride-alongs with him where we'd go from 8 o'clock at night to 5 o'clock in the morning. And just being in the police car, seeing how stressful that job actually is, gives you a real sense of reality of the types of things that police officers and state troopers actually go through on a day-to-day basis. And I think that to be able to relieve that stress, that the council needs to do whatever necessary to make sure that our police force is taken care of. I also believe that we should not allow, and we should work very diligently to make sure that the things that are happening inside of our nation, such as police officers getting bashed on social media, that those types of things don't happen inside the city of Brownwood and never approach us at all.
And if you wish to make closing statements, you have 2 minutes each. So we'll start with Mr. Jones. You have 2 minutes if you wish to close.
I've been a businessman here for 37 years. I believe the city should be run like a business. I've served the citizens of Brownwood for 11 years on the city council. I work very hard for everyone, no matter what ward they live in. I vote for only the issues I believe are in the best interest of the Brownwood citizens. I've never failed to stand alone on an issue I thought was wrong. I make decisions based on facts and common sense. Being a councilman is not status or making people think you're important, or it's about love for your community, and it's about wanting to make things better for people that live here. It's about children and family. It's about standing up for people's rights and making sure that everyone is treated fairly. It's about growing our community so that people have more opportunities and be proud of where you live. I appreciate your vote and elect for me to the city councilman. Re-elected.
So I agree with Jones. You know, this isn't about status, it's about serving people. And the thing is that for 2 weeks I had that council packet sitting on my desk. It was fully filled out, ready for a signature. And I was debating back and forth if I should actually do this. And so I sat down and wrote down a pros and cons list, and the cons overwhelmingly outnumbered the pros. Things like, you know, you don't get paid for this job. You know, people are going to judge and criticize every move that you make and every decision that you make. And also you're going to have to put up with more problems than you currently already have. But the one deciding factor on the pro side was that I believe that it's time for my generation to step up to the plate and start solving problems with inside the city. And if I don't lead this charge, who will? And the thing is that some people believe that what I'm doing is an out with the old, in with the new approach. And that's just simply not true. See, in the Bible it says the old will dream dreams and the young will see visions. It was meant to be a partnership between two generations to see forth change inside the city of Brownwood, Texas. And that's exactly what I'm going to do as your next city councilman. Thank you.